plan to save EU. Democrat plotted to meddle in European politics to shore up bloc. Hillary Clinton planned to throw her administration headlong into European domestic politics in a desperate attempt to save the EU from collapse, one of her most senior advisors has revealed today. She looks like she belongs in a wheelchair. That's what she looks like. The failed Democratic candidate has devised a strategy which included dispatching officials on a tour of the continent to drum up support and publicly denouncing critics of the project in the White House statements. She wanted to develop a closer relationship with Brussels during her tenure, building on the foundations laid by Barack Obama, and felt that the European Union, quote, needed more support from Washington. The strategy was revealed by Julian Smith, who was the head of Mrs. Clinton's European team during last year's presidential election campaign, in an interview with Euractiv's Jorge Valero. She suggested that if elected president, the Democratic nominee would have been prepared to wade full on into domestic European politics in a way even her predecessor generally eschewed. Mr. Obama was heavily criticized when he took a clear stance on Brexit, telling British voters that the UK would be, quote, back of the queue for a trade deal if they voted to leave the EU. The ill-advised intervention was broadly seen as being of huge help to the Leave campaign, which made a huge capital out of the perception that a U.S. president was trying to boss Britain around. It appears Miss Clinton would have carried on in that vein, however, with her top advisor suggesting she would have condemned the Eurosceptic stance currently being taken by countries like Hungary. Hungarian PM Viktor Orban is currently embroiled in a series of rows with Brussels over his policies on migration, an attempt to shut down a university owned by George Soros, and a Stop Brussels consultation on repatriating certain powers. Hillary Clinton's first speech after losing the presidential election, "We don't care," asked what the Democrats' strategy would have been. Ms. Smith replied, quote, "We could work with the European partners to call out countries that are rolling back democratic reforms. There could be political statements that are made in tandem between Washington and Brussels to call out, for example, what Orban did to the Central European universities." She added, "There could be visits by U.S. officials to European capitals to show resolve and unity in the face of Russian aggression." There was a broad feeling among the team and Clinton herself that Washington would need to extend a hand and build on the partnership between Barack Obama and Angela Merkel, and have a closer relationship to many of the leaders in Europe and Brussels, and work with our European allies to strengthen our cooperation. In her interview, she also laid into Donald Trump, who shocked the world by beating Mrs. Clinton in last November's election, saying the Republican had, quote, "no plan for U.S. relations with the EU. Brussels has been alarmed by Mr. Trump's Eurosceptic stance, with the U.S. president having been a vocal backer of the campaign for Britain to leave the EU. Relations plunged into the deep freeze following the Republicans' election in November, with Germany and its leader Angela Merkel becoming a particular focus of his criticism. He has since softened his tone somewhat, although He still made clear his preference for dealing with individual countries rather than supranational organizations. Well, I totally agree with Trump. And she looks like she's ready to keel over in this picture. And how come they don't show any clip of her speaking at this event? You know? Let us know what you think in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.